Imagine paying thousands of dollars just to get your name in a book that was once seen as the ultimate proof of human achievement. Now, what if I told you that some of the most famous Guinness World Records weren't really about being the best or the first, but about who could pay to be recognized? Yeah, this might blow your mind. Most of us grew up thinking Guinness World Records was this legendary organization that searched the planet to find the biggest, fastest, strongest, or weirdest humans alive. The tallest man, the fastest runner, or even the person with the longest fingernails. These were the stories that made us believe in pushing limits. But behind the scenes, there's a very different story, and it's one most people never hear about. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the secret scam behind Guinness World Records, how a system that used to reward real achievement has turned into a massive money-making machine. From hidden fees to pay-to-play record attempts, to corporations and even governments buying records for publicity, this story gets crazier the deeper you go. And stick around, because later in this video, we'll reveal how some of the most bizarre and official records were actually bought, not earned. And wait until you hear how much some companies are willing to pay just to say they hold a Guinness World Record. You won't believe how far it goes. So, if you've ever dreamed of being a record holder, or if you thought Guinness World Records was all about honoring greatness, this is a story you need to hear. Because the truth? It's way more complicated, and maybe even darker than you think. To understand how Guinness World Records turned into what some call a scam, we first need to look at how it all began, because it didn't start this way. Back in 1955, Guinness World Records was created by Sir Hugh Beaver, the managing director of the Guinness Brewery. The story goes that he got into an argument at a party about which game bird was the fastest, but there was no book to settle the debate. So he decided to make one, a book that would officially track and publish the most incredible human achievements and natural extremes. And just like that, Guinness Book of Records was born. In those early days, records were carefully chosen and fact-checked. It wasn't about who had money or influence, it was about the truth. People admired Guinness for being the ultimate authority on what was officially the best, or the first of anything. As the decades rolled on, Guinness World Records exploded in popularity. It wasn't just a book anymore, it became a TV show, a traveling event, and a global brand that inspired millions. From classrooms to living rooms, everyone knew what Guinness World Records stood for. But as the organization grew, so did the pressures of staying relevant and profitable. In a world where people are bombarded with viral videos and social media stunts, Guinness had to find a way to keep people interested. And that's when things started to change. Instead of focusing only on timeless records like the tallest man or the longest jump, Guinness began approving increasingly bizarre, niche, and sometimes silly records, like fastest time to eat a bowl of pasta with no hands, or most t-shirts worn at once. Now, while these are fun to watch, they also opened a door for anyone, especially corporations, to buy their way into the record books. As we'll see in a moment, this shift wasn't just about keeping up with trends, it became a way to make a lot of money. But first, let's dive into exactly how much it costs to get a Guinness World Record, and why some people are calling it a pay-to-play scheme. Now here's where things really start to get interesting. And kind of disturbing. Most people think that if you break a world record, Guinness will come running to put your name in the book. But the reality is very different. Behind almost every record you see today, there's a price tag, sometimes a huge one. Let's start with the basic fees. If you want to apply for a Guinness World Record and it's an existing category, like fastest mile run backward or largest pizza, you can submit an application for free. But here's the catch, that free application can take up to 12 weeks just to be reviewed. And if you're hoping to set a new record, something no one has done before, well, you'll need to pay a non-refundable fee of about $5 to $5, depending on your country, just to have them consider your idea. And that's only the beginning. If you want faster results, Guinness offers what they call priority application services. And these aren't cheap. For an existing record, you're looking at about $800 to $1,000 just to have them review your attempt in a quicker time frame. For a brand new record idea, that jumps to $1,000 or more, and that's still without any official representative present to verify your attempt. Want an official adjudicator from Guinness to show up and certify your record in person? Now you're talking serious money. Corporate clients, think big companies that want to hold a record for publicity, are often charged anywhere from $12,000 to $500,000, depending on the event size, location, and complexity. Yeah, $500,000 for a record attempt. And corporations pay it because being able to say we hold a Guinness World Record is incredible marketing. So is it a scam? Well, here's where the debate begins. Guinness argues that these fees cover administrative costs, verification, and the expertise needed to ensure the record is real. But critics say this system heavily favors the rich. Big companies and celebrities can pay to get fast-tracked and get all the attention, while everyday people are left waiting months or struggling to afford the process. Think about it. If you're a regular person with an amazing talent, like solving a Rubik's Cube in record time, you might never get recognized because you can't afford the fees or wait a whole year for approval. But if you're a millionaire company wanting to set the record for largest online yoga class, you can pay Guinness, get immediate attention, and get splashed all over the media. And it gets even more questionable when you realize that many of the records we see today are specifically designed to attract corporate money. For example, categories like largest gathering of people dressed as superheroes or most sandwiches made in an hour are tailor-made for companies wanting publicity. The record isn't just a record, it's a marketing tool, and Guinness is cashing in big time. So while Guinness World Records started as a celebration of human achievement, today it often feels more like a business deal. If you have the cash, you can get the record, and that's a system many say is deeply unfair. But hold on, because in the next part, we're going to talk about actual controversial records that have been approved, and some of them will shock you. Get ready for stories about records tied to authoritarian governments and massive corporations, because this rabbit hole goes deeper than you think. So, if you thought the fees were bad, wait until you hear about some of the records that have actually been approved. Because money isn't the only problem. Let's start with one of the most shocking accusations, which came from none other than John Oliver, host of HBO's Last Week Tonight. On national television, Oliver called out Guinness World Records for accepting money from authoritarian governments to certify records that seemed designed only to make those regimes look good. According to Oliver, countries with questionable human rights records have hired Guinness to validate meaningless achievements, like the largest flag flown or biggest gathering of people waving banners, just so their governments could look impressive to their citizens and the world. And this isn't just a conspiracy theory. After Oliver's segment aired, Guinness actually refused to let their name be associated with his show, probably because he exposed how far they've gone to work with questionable clients. But it doesn't stop there. Corporations are also getting in on this game. Want to launch a new product? No problem. Just invent a record to go along with it. Need attention for your brand? Set a record for most people simultaneously using your product. And guess what? Guinness will help create and certify that record, if you can pay. Here's a real example. A major tech company once set a record for the most selfies taken in 1 hour. Obviously staged for marketing. Nothing wrong with a fun campaign, right? But when you realize that Guinness gave this equal weight to something like the fastest person to climb Mount Everest, you start to see how the value of these records is getting watered down. Even worse, some of these corporate-sponsored records take the spotlight away from real human achievement. Small-town heroes, athletes, or inventors might set amazing records but never get media coverage, because corporations with big budgets and PR teams can grab the headlines. And here's something that will blow your mind. Guinness has been known to create categories on demand, meaning if a company wants to set a record that doesn't exist yet, they can pay Guinness to invent a whole new category just for them. Want to be the first person to stack cupcakes while riding a unicycle in Times Square? Sure, Guinness might just approve it, if the price is right. All of this leads people to wonder, is Guinness World Records still about celebrating greatness? Or is it just a giant business where records are sold to the highest bidder? But if you think this is only hurting the image of Guinness, wait until you hear what happens to individuals. People who spend years chasing a record, only to be left in the dust. That's coming up next. Now, let's talk about the everyday people. The dreamers, the doers, the folks who push their bodies and minds to the limit in hopes of seeing their name in that famous Guinness book. This is where the scam hits the hardest. For many, holding a Guinness World Record is a lifelong goal. Maybe it's about breaking a physical limit, like running the longest distance in 24 hours, or something quirky, like building the largest Lego tower. But what most people don't realize is that just attempting to break a record can drain your savings, your time, and your energy, all with no guarantee you'll be officially recognized. First off, the application process itself is a mountain to climb. As we mentioned earlier, unless you pay hefty fees to expedite the process, you might wait months, sometimes over a year, just to get a response. Imagine training for years to break a record, only to have your application sit in limbo because you can't afford the extra fees for faster service. Then there are the costs of actually organizing the attempt. Guinness has strict guidelines. You need official witnesses, sometimes professional video crews, specific equipment, and detailed documentation. All of that costs money, and if you want to make sure Guinness recognizes it right away, you'll need to pay for an official adjudicator to be on site, which, as we've seen, can cost thousands of dollars, money that most individuals simply don't have. And even after all that effort and expense, there's no guarantee you'll be accepted. Guinness can reject an attempt if they think the record isn't measurable enough, or if you didn't follow their guidelines perfectly, even if you actually broke the record. Think about how devastating that would be. Imagine spending years preparing, training, and investing your savings to pull off something amazing, only to be denied because you couldn't afford the right way to submit it. There are countless stories of people who broke records but never got officially recognized because they couldn't pay for expedited processing or adjudication. Meanwhile, big corporations can write a check, get a Guinness rep to show up, and have a record-stamped official on the same day. In the end, this system discourages real talent and hard work. It sends a message that unless you have deep pockets, your achievements don't count. A message that's the opposite of what Guinness was supposed to stand for. And for many individuals, the emotional toll is huge. What was once a dream turns into frustration and disappointment. The dream of being a record holder becomes something only the wealthy can afford. But guess what? The public is catching on, and they're not happy. Up next, we'll talk about how people are reacting to what Guinness World Records has become, and why more and more people are calling it out. As more people start to see what's really going on behind the scenes, the reputation of Guinness World Records is taking a serious hit. Once seen as the ultimate judge of human achievement, Guinness is now facing a wave of criticism from everyday people, former record holders, and even celebrities. All over social media, Reddit threads, and YouTube, people are calling them out for what they see as selling out, putting profits before real records. Take a scroll through Reddit, and you'll find posts titled things like "Guinness World Records is a joke now," or "You can just buy a world record if you pay enough." People are frustrated, and they're saying what used to be a meaningful achievement is now nothing more than a marketing tool. And honestly, can you blame them? When you see companies setting records for things like largest cake pop mosaic just to promote a new product, it makes the whole system look ridiculous. Sure, these records are fun, but do they really belong next to serious accomplishments like oldest living person or longest distance swum underwater? Then there's the issue of quantity over quality. Critics say Guinness is approving more and more ridiculous records just to stay relevant in an age of TikTok challenges and viral videos. But by focusing on silly, easy-to-break records, they're undermining the value of real achievements, and people are noticing. Even former record holders have spoken out, saying that breaking a record now doesn't mean what it used to. Some have even distanced themselves from Guinness, refusing to reapply or update their records because they don't want to be associated with a system they see as broken. And it's not just individuals. Journalists and TV hosts have publicly questioned Guinness's ethics, especially after the allegations about working with authoritarian regimes and corporations to sell records. So, the public's trust is eroding fast. And unless Guinness makes some serious changes, that trust might be gone for good. But before we wrap up, let's take a step back and ask, what does all this mean for the future of Guinness World Records? That's where we're headed next, so stick around. So, where does all this leave us? What started as a humble book meant to settle bar arguments has now become a multi-million-dollar business, one that, according to many, puts profits over real human achievement. Guinness World Records was supposed to be about celebrating the limits of what humans can do. But today, it's often about who can write the biggest check. Sure, not every record is bought. There are still incredible people out there doing amazing things. Athletes, artists, and innovators breaking barriers. But those real heroes are being pushed to the sidelines while corporations and PR machines dominate the spotlight with records designed to sell products or boost political egos. And let's not forget about the dreamers, the individuals with real talent who spend years working toward a goal only to be priced out of recognition. Their stories deserve to be heard. Their records deserve to count. So, what happens now? Can Guinness fix its reputation? Can it go back to being a symbol of true greatness? Maybe. But only if it recommits to fairness, transparency, and integrity, values that made it great in the first place. Until then, the question remains, is Guinness World Records still the gold standard of human achievement? Or is it just another business selling fame to the highest bidder? If you've made it this far, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think Guinness can be saved? Or is it too far gone? Drop a comment below, and let's talk about it. And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because there are plenty more shocking stories like this coming your way.